What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. Just wanted to do a quick video about where you should set up camp if you're bugging out or if you're in an emergency get home situation after some kind of disaster, either man-made or natural. And let's say you have your bug out bag and you have to travel whatever, 50 miles to get home from your job, and at some point you're gonna have to set up camp for the night. So if you're in a wooded environment, a rural area, I want to just give you guys an example of a good area that you could use to set up camp for the night. You're not going to be able to walk 3 days straight without rest. I don't care who you are. Eventually you're going to collapse of fatigue and you're just not going to be combat effective, if you're just walking 3 days straight non-stop. So you got to pick a good spot to settle down for the night and recharge. And you may have to, let's say, boil some water or start a fire to keep yourself warm, or to ward off predators, to cook maybe something. So you have to pick a good campsite, because if there's a SHTF situation, there's going to be a lot of other people that are bugging out, And if there's a collapse of rule of law, there's not going to be anybody out there stopping the bad guys. So you have to make sure you select a good location to set up camp for the night if you're bugging out, okay? And what you're looking at here is an excellent location, all right? This is some very thick mountain laurel. This is in north central Pennsylvania on the Allegheny Plateau. And this is an example of an excellent location, all right? It's very thick. As you can see, there's tons of mountain laurel. Visibility is not more than 5 yards. If you were to actually walk in there, if I was to actually go in there into that mountain laurel, you're not going to see me. You could be 20 feet away from me and you wouldn't even see me bedded down in that stuff, okay? I could be laying on the ground and you wouldn't even know I was there, okay? I'm a hunter. I've been hunting all my life, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there hunt too. And for those of you guys in the Northeast, you know that when you're deer hunting, if you spook a deer, they like to go into this thick brush type environment with mountain laurels, rhododendrons. They love that stuff, and the reason why is they feel safe in there, okay? There's been many times where I've gone hunting and I spooked a deer inside a mountain laurel. It was 5 yards away from me. It was bedded down and it heard me walking by and it just ran at the last minute. And so you have to mimic what the animals do. You can learn from the animals. And believe it or not, there's actually some deer droppings right here. So animals are not stupid, but bottom line is, if you're bugging out and you're trying to set up camp for the night, you have to find a suitable location, okay? And a heavy brush area like this with a lot of dense vegetation is the best case scenario, okay? And the reason why, number one, concealment. Like I said, you could be, let's say you set up your sleeping bag on the ground and you're quiet, you don't have a big flashlight or anything, and you're practicing good light and noise discipline, and you're practicing good smell discipline. You don't smell, you didn't poop right nearby somewhere. You're not, smoking cigarettes or cooking smelly food. You could be laying down in a sleeping bag on the ground in this brush, and someone could walk by 20 yards away and they won't even know you're there. And furthermore, you're going to have the advantage. If someone is tracking you and they suspect that you're in this brush, you're going to have an advantage, all right? Because you're going to hear them coming, but they're not going to know where you are because it's so thick. They're not going to be able to triangulate your position until you make a move and you start moving. Once you start moving, they're going to hear the brush cracking and stuff like that, and they'll be able to zone in on you. But if you're just quiet and still, you're going to have the upper hand. So, if someone's tracking you, you'll have the upper hand. Another thing too is cover. Believe it or not, this type of dense brush can provide some cover. The reason why is, bullets, believe it or not, guys, bullets are not, impervious to wood. You know, I've done a lot of penetration tests on my channel. It doesn't take a whole lot to stop common service caliber weapons, okay? It really doesn't. And a heavy brushy area like this, you know, if God forbid someone is shooting at you, or you walk into the middle of a gunfight, if you get into some thick rhododendrons like this, or thick brush, or just some kind of, you know, any kind of brush that's pretty woody, like, you know, you don't want to be in like a weedy environment, because weeds don't really have much consistency to them. They're pretty weak. But here, as you see, this is like a woody small tree, you know, and there's so many of them, and what that does is that creates like a barrier, and you know, the bullets they'll be stopped. You know, they may not stop completely, obviously, but what's going to happen is they're not going to penetrate through the brush in a straight line, especially if you're using, let's say, a 9mm or 223 common service calibers. They just don't have the punch to bust through, you know, yards and yards of this kind of thick undergrowth, you know. Now, if you have like a high power rifle, you know, Magnum rifle, 30-06, 270, or 300 Win Mag or something like that, then yeah, it'll penetrate a little better. You know, but still, this kind of brush can protect you. Concealment, cover. You know, another thing too is that this kind of brush, what it'll do is, if you do have to make a fire, it's going to kind of camouflage the smoke. You know, the smell of the smoke, it's going to disperse the smoke around, and it's going to be harder for someone to figure out exactly where you are, you know, because it's so thick and the smoke is going to be dispersed, you know. So that's another advantage if you do have to build a fire. Being in a heavy brushy area like this, what's going to happen is the smoke will be dispersed through the brush. The smoke will be concealed by the brush, and it's going to be hard for someone to pinpoint, oh, you know, that's the source of the smoke. You know, no one's going to really be able to see where your smoke is coming from, okay, because it's going to be spread out through the brush. And also, brush dissipates noise pretty well. If you're like in a brushy environment, you know, what happens is the brush can deflect the sound, you know. So if, let's say, you are moving through the brush, or you're making noise, whatever noise you're making for whatever reason, the brush is going to reflect the sound in different directions, you know. So, and I've experienced this myself being a hunter, you know. Many times I'll be set up in a brushy area like this, overwatching a brushy area, or right outside of a brushy area like this, and waiting for the deer to come out, and ambushing them when they come out. But a lot of times the deer will be moving through the brush, and I won't know exactly where they are in the brush, you know what I mean? Because the sound is dissipated and reflected in all different directions by the vegetation, you know, versus if you're in open environment, the sound can be, you know, triangulated better, and you could figure out the source of the sound, you know, the noise. So those are some huge advantages of camping out in a brushy area. It's natural cover. It'll protect you from bullets. It's not a guarantee, but it will deflect some bullets. You know, it'll provide concealment. It'll also protect you from weather, you know, wind, the elements, you know, that kind of heavy vegetation. You know, any kind of, even like these evergreens here, if you have like an area with young evergreen trees, that's a great area too. You know, small spruces and firs and pines that are like maybe 6 to 15 feet tall, that's a great option too. So many benefits to camping out overnight when you're bugging out in a brushy area. So this is an example of a good area to be, and I'm going to show you now a bad area to be that you don't want to set up camp for the night. So stay tuned. So now we have an example of a bad area to set up camp for the night if you're bugging out. You can see how wide open it is here. This is a mature hardwood forest. We have some huge oak trees all over, and these oak trees are great because they draw in game animals. So this would be a good area to ambush a deer or an elk or a bear, squirrel, but they're not good for camping out and being stealthy. Okay, as you see, there's no cover, there's no concealment, it's wide open. So this is not an area that you want to set up a camp if you're bugging out. Okay, look down there, guys. You can see 500 yards or even further, really far down there. And if there's someone down there right now and they started setting up a fire, I would easily see the glow of their fire from where I am right now, and I would see where the smoke is coming from. I would be able to triangulate their position based on the noise, the sights, the sounds. By using my senses, I would be able to triangulate them because it's wide open here. Okay, there's no concealment, there's no cover, there's nothing protecting you from bullets. Okay, so this is a terrible place to set up camp. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to share this information with you. I hope that helped you out. If you want to see more videos on bugging out, subscribe to my channel. And as always, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.